from Americana to Zydeco and everything in between. This is the Extended Play Sessions.
Tongue-tied and looking out the window, wonder which way now is the wind gonna blow. Pots boiling, pressure is forming, screaming, yelling, everything's got to go. For me, but I know
the band did start out as primarily I was the songwriter with already songs kind of arranged, and then I'd say the first 6 months was kind of like putting those songs together, and then you find everybody's kind of parts, and then I started kind of writing, thinking of like, well, this part could be done by Elena, and this Dayton will probably do this. I would always write like really slow kind of acoustic stuff, and Dayton would always try to make it more upbeat. And then our first two albums were kind of that way, and then once we got into the Maestro and the Elephant, which is our last album, Max Barslow had joined the band, and he's a songwriter. Elena's been a songwriter for as long as I've been a songwriter, and there was just kind of like this amount of songs that I had written that I wanted to get done, and we didn't really have any more, and we all kind of blended really well. And I think it would be hard to like start out and be like, all right, this is what we're going to do, but we're all going to sound this way. But we had spent so much time kind of with the basis of like, these are some ideas, and some of them worked, some of them didn't work, that it became much more, a co-writing process where it always is known now if any of us are going to throw something into the Fierce Bad Rabbit pile, it's going into the blender and it's going to come out completely different. And so I think individually we all kind of hold some things that we're like, I don't know if I want to throw that one out there, but this one I would throw out there. And so I think that's kind of how we've gotten to where we're at. It's definitely been a lot more collective. And this last studio experience at Sonic Ranch was the most collective, because we really didn't have a lot to say, well, I want to do this and this and this. This is written. It was more like, well, let's try this. And Nathaniel Marshall joined with us back about a year ago, and so he came to the studio with us, and he had to, some ideas that came into it that we were like, oh, cool, like that's a whole nother, color on the palette. And so at this point, it is very much of a blending of all of our styles kind of together. I think we've spent enough time together in lots of situations.
shine like change. Everything is something when it feels this way. 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 Turning each page and loving each day. Never forget how you swept me away. Running head over heels when I knew you were stealing my heart away, away. You got away, but you'll never fade. I know that you and I will change, but you shine like an angel. Everything is something when it feels this way. Everything is something when it feels this way. Everything is something when it feels this way. Everything is something when it feels this way.
I think sometimes I get lazy and I forget to
Thank you.
remain artistic, and sometimes you forget to take time to sit down, or I know I do, to like sit down and actually be like, well, what I want to be as a musician, because these days as a musician you have a whole list of things that you're doing to try to make it work that 90% of them aren't music now, you know, where you're like, oh, I got to take care of this or try to do this or think about this or whatever. And so I think that's why the Texas trip we had like 2 weeks ago was just so revitalizing for us as a band. Was I think we all tried to like keep checking our emails for like a couple days, and then we just stopped, and it was like that's all our jobs that we were trying to do via email just kind of had to stop, and we were like, let's just make some music because we're here. And that was definitely how I approached it. It was just like, let's enjoy this. Like, this is our time. We found ourselves in El Paso, a mile north of Mexico, and we're writing some great songs, so they were feeling great. I'm sure they'll sound good. So.
Tell me what you want. Does it have to do with me? You got a careless touch, or one that fills me up with need. Well, tell me now. Do you want me now? Do you want me? You got a smile. Oh, it's up my eyes. When you walk away, oh, makes me wanna cry.
with the Maestro and the Elephant, we worked with this producer named Andrew Berlin, who he very much respected all the things that we had already written, but then he helped kind of mold them into this pop sound. He, to try to make it all very smooth. And then Danny Kalb, with the new one we just did the same thing, and they actually were very similar in the way they worked, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's the situation as an artist where you're like, oh, I won't get into a recording project without a producer. Like, it just seems like when you're used to like the way that works, once you have a producer that's outside of the band, it makes you all relaxed internally as a band, and no one's always trying to take charge or anything, because you're paying somebody else to be in charge.
Peacesaking.
Yeah, the ambassador.
I don't know what I'm doing around here anymore, just waiting for change or something maybe all the same. I don't know what I want to do with you any more than you don't know what to do with me. Wildflowers on this dusty road, in desolation some things will grow. So build a fence here and call it your home. That loaded shotgun, well, you'll always be left alone. Left alone. And right down roads, well, I can't seem to let go of the things, all the things I cannot change. Keep cutting corners and we hope it's alright. We tell the truth with our little white lies. I know wildflowers on this dusty road, in desolation some things will grow. So build a fence here and call it your home. That loaded shotgun, well, you'll always be left alone. Left alone. She stops and sighs as she looks down to cry, and she says, well, I think it gets time we rest. All this talking and there's no stopping, and we keep watching the same things going round. Keep cutting corners and we hope it's alright. We tell the truth with our little white lies. I know you could go your way, I could go mine. We could just quit this now and leave it all behind. We could keep fighting all goddamn night, or we could both decide and try to make it right. Come with me, I know you're worried. This is a part of a difficult journey, but I think it's worth it. I know nothing's perfect, but we'll stand tall even if we fall apart. I know what you're thinking, you've got your reasons. We keep on passing through all of the seasons. Please don't leave me, my bones wouldn't hold me. We'll stand tall even if we fall Come with me. I know you're worried. This is part of a difficult journey. Please don't leave me. My bones wouldn't hold me. We'll stand tall even if we fall apart.
Thank you.
With Chris being 900 miles away, or I don't actually know how far away Boston is from Colorado. It's far. It's very far. But we've maintained communication like practically on a daily basis, and And we weren't sure how well the new recording process was going to go because with The Maestro and the Elephant and Spools of Thread and the U EP, all of them, we had lots of time to work it out. But I actually thought that the fact that it wasn't written made it magical, and it was incredible how much we got done, which was encouraging.
Yeah, I think kind of the space apart sort of makes you appreciate it. The way I look at it, though, is different. It's 4 hours on a flight where we drove from New York today for 4 hours in a Kia minivan, which is not comfortable. So
All of our stuff.
you were driving. I rode in the front seat yesterday, and that van is pretty comfortable in the front seat, but the back seat is not comfortable.
Now he admits it.
I got in the van. I was trying to be optimistic. I go, it's pretty comfortable. I've got like merch here, a guitar here, and like bags here, and like every time we move or anything, it's just a total orchestration of 6 people. So that was 4.5 hours trip from New York to Boston here, and tomorrow these guys are gonna get on a plane and go to Denver in less than 4 hours. So that is the way I look at it. We've driven in the van at different times without speaking for 7.5 hours, and that's miserable. So I just kind of view it as like, now that once I moved out here, it was kind of like, well, let's see how it works. If we can keep playing shows and keep having fun and keep writing and keep producing, like, why not? And so it's kind of an experiment we're just doing as we go forward with it. So.
Tongue-tied and looking out the window, wonder which way now is the wind gonna blow. Pots boiling, pressure is forming, screaming, yelling, everything's got to go. Care for me, but I know I'll just have to wait and see. This time I'm taking my final swing. I'm walking on to better days. Better days. These little idiosyncrasies are turning up to be the bigger thing. Smile now down this boulevard. You got to wonder how we got this far. And I've got some people that don't care for me. I know I'll just have to wait and see. This time I'm taking my final swing. I'm walking on to better days. Better days than these. Better days than these. A smile now down this boulevard. You got to wonder how we got this far. Smile now down this boulevard. You got to wonder how we got this far. Better days than these. Better days than these. Better days than these. Better days than these.
You know, I think the first thing that really got me was Led Zeppelin. Like, my dad walked in, I was watching this song Remains the Same, and I think he just looked at Robert Plant like some freak, and he just shook his head, and he was like, I don't know why you like that. And I was like, I think that's what I want to do. But I actually wanted to be Jimmy Page. I didn't want to be a singer in a band. I thought I could never remember lyrics, which is always the one thing I'm worried about, is remembering lyrics. But anyways, so that, and then I have to be honest here, because this is always the question, is I did have a pretty serious Dave Matthews Band fan phase, and Amber and Jeff, this is nothing to say that they shouldn't still be amazing, and they are. But I was really deep in it for a bit. I went into a Dave Matthews concert, and I wanted to be an architect, and I walked out I wanted to be a musician, and that was at Folsom Field, they know over there, Folsom Field, 2001, July 18th. But then I became like a working musician, and I started to get really into kind of the indie scene. The Shins were really influential, the National, and but I'd say that's not like the best thing to say, Led Zeppelin and Dave Matthews Band, but that does kind of, I like the honesty of the Dave Matthews Band songwriting, and I liked the power of Led Zeppelin, I guess. So, two really big bands, nothing really avant-garde to say, like, oh, have you ever heard of this subgenre of a banjo player 40 years ago? That did it for me. But I personally just want to always keep the music pure. Like, I don't want to ever feel like you're like, I mean, certain songs do mean a lot more to you personally than other, I mean, as you're performing it. But I don't ever want to feel like, you know, we're just putting on a show. And that's been the really difficult thing in a band on our level, where you're playing to various degrees of a whole array of successful litmus tests of what that show was to you last night. And I know earlier in the years when we were just touring to tour, you're playing 6 nights a week to sometimes 5 to 10, maybe 50 people. That can really start to wear on the songwriting, and that we had to kind of pull back and be like, all right, we're not just going to tour. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so that's kind of the way I just always want it to be, like, impacting people. I want people to kind of feel at least the emotion we're feeling on stage, because if we're not conveying that, then what's the point, you know?
Except for mostly I want people to feel happy after we play.
I thought you were going to say you wanted them to hear your viola.
That's true. Turn it up. one thing I think from the very beginning of the inception of Fierce Bad Rabbit, we tried to make that a known thing. We weren't all going to noodle through every song. We were all going to make sure that, you know, we were all heard, but we didn't overplay.
That became very apparent to me during this last studio recording session, because this is the first time I'd recorded in a studio with a band or recorded in a studio, period. But I come from a classical piano background, so I'm like super, super busy on the piano all the time. So take one is me being like stop doing that, simple it down, then I'm like, whoosh, like
No, more simple.
half of that, and then I'm like, like half of that, I'm like, perfect. But it's not about how much you can do, it's how well you can be part of the whole mechanism. So
We're going to release this album, and you know, we're hoping that'll. You always hope when you have a new product out that like something's going to do something more than it's done before, and we've seen that every year. Like this song got this situation, and this song did this for us, and so you know, we have an album we're sitting on that's like getting mixed and mastered right now. We want to release that in the summer, and we'll be at South by Southwest, and then we're talking about doing CMJ in October. So definitely trying to keep this sort of cross-continent continuity going on.
I would like to make more music videos because they are lots of fun.
Yeah, we like
do
it when
that.
we're like in a room and there's like rain coming down on us, and we're like looking like Creed, like
glitter on a snare drum, and then the drummer hits it, and it goes. Psh.
Hey, that was our first video. Don't mock it. It was awesome.
yeah, she liked that. That was her idea.